Yes, Nikon came out with another Z camera that has film in its blood. This is the Nikon ZF, and while it looks like a ZFC but a little bit larger, it's more than that. You still have a lot of the physical dials and buttons that make it look like a retro film camera, and like the ZFC, you have a little screen on the top here to see your f-stop. You also have a fully articulating LCD screen so you can see yourself. This comes with the same EN-EL15 batteries. This has the C version of that battery so you can charge it via USB-C, which is very helpful if you happen to be shooting on the Z6 or the Z7 line of cameras. You're able to use the same batteries. Now, as we have the battery door open, I want to show you that not only does this have an SD card slot that you can record to, but what's really cool is you have a second card slot, and that records to micro SD. So keeping that form factor very small and lightweight, you still are able to record to two types of media at the same time. So for those of you that are shooting weddings or other type of events that can't be done again, this is going to be a welcome addition. But if you're someone who likes to go from manual to automatic modes in the flip of a switch, there's a switch on the top here, and all you do is use your thumb or your finger, push it all the way to auto, and you're there. As well as program, shutter priority, aperture priority, and fully manual mode. And then on the top dial here, you have different intervals that you can choose, as well as your sync speed, your bulb mode, or full seconds. If you like to either use the back dial or the front dial to change your shutter speed, go ahead and put it in that 1/3 step mode. Of course, you have USB-C, a microphone jack, a headphone jack, and a micro HDMI port. The LCD monitor on the back is a 3.2-inch, 2.1 million dot screen, and you have a 1/2-inch EVF on the top, which also gives you 3.69 million dots of resolution. You also have a switch here on the top to go from photo to video, as well as a black and white mode, so you can jump into black and white photos very quickly. The Nikon ZF has a 24.5 megapixel backside illuminated CMOS sensor, so it's going to perform very well in low light. It also has the same processing engine found in the Z9 and the Z8. And for those of you that need to shoot in high burst rates, the Nikon ZF can shoot up to 14 frames per second in mechanical shutter and up to 30 frames per second in electronic shutter. Another cool advancement that has made its way into the Z9 and Z8 has also made its way down to the Nikon ZF, and that's pre-release capture. Put the camera in this mode and it's constantly buffering photos before you press the shutter down. You can shoot up to 30 frames per second before you press down. This will be ideal for those of you shooting fast-moving subjects like birds taking flight, or fast-moving sports like baseball, volleyball, hockey. Even if your reaction to pressing the shutter button down is a little bit slow, the camera has still captured it. It's also a stabilized sensor, so you can get up to 8 stops of vibration reduction. And on top of that, Nikon added this really cool new feature called focus point stabilization. It applies stabilization around the active focus point. So if you have something in the corner or over to the far right or left, it's going to stabilize the image around that focus point to make sure that your subject is absolutely crystal clear, especially when handheld. And lastly, the most exciting feature on this camera on the still side is going to be the ability to shoot up to 96 megapixel stills using pixel shift shooting. You can choose between a 4 and 32 image burst. Then after you've taken your shots, pull it into NX Studio to combine it into a 96 megapixel masterpiece. Shooting this way is going to give you the highest resolution, the lowest noise, and lower moire. And when shooting portraits, you now have the ability to turn on the new skin softening feature, which allows you to suppress imperfections on the skin while also retaining detail and the integrity of the skin tone. Now for the video shooters. The Nikon ZF can shoot up to 30 frames per second, 4K resolution in full frame mode, and this is scaled down from the native 6K resolution. If you need to shoot slow motion, you can also shoot 4K 60 frames per second and 1080 up to 120 frames per second in the DX mode, as well as the ability to shoot in a 10-bit H.265 codec in either SDR, HLG, or N-Log. And like we've seen on the recent Nikon mirrorless cameras, you can shoot video clips up to 2 hours in length. You have the ability to turn on zebras, use a waveform monitor, use the magnified recording monitoring, which puts a red border around the box when you're recording. And a cool feature from the Nikon Z8 and Z9 is the video setting info display. You can turn this display on while you're in standby or while you're recording video, so you can make sure your settings are in the right place. The Nikon ZF does have a weather sealed construction, and backed by popular demand, there is a circular eyepiece. While you're shooting, you'll notice there's a small lip on the side, so it's easier to hold on to, but if you want something more robust, then Nikon and SmallRig have created a piece together that makes that lip a bit more pronounced. You still have access to the door so you can get to your memory cards and battery, as well as an Arca Swiss plate on the bottom. And while we're testing this out, we're using some of the compact primes that Nikon offers in the Z mount. The first one's going to be this really cool 40mm f2 and the 28mm f2.8. These two lenses were the perfect pairing for the Nikon ZF when I was testing it out on a trip to Nashville. There were some times where I needed more reach, but I also wanted to keep the system compact. So I went with the 70 to 180mm f2.8. Altogether, this was an excellent kit and it fit into a sling bag. If you want to make the Nikon ZF or any of the accessories we talked about part of your kit, visit any of our physical locations or online at bedfords.com.